A better human should be courageous and should not mind the occasional hurt. They should be able to go on, putting the pain behind them. As for energy, it is the dynamo in the human machine. It is the quality that coaches are looking for in their pupils. And perseverance is an absolute essential. Some people learn more easily than others. It often happens, however, that the person who learns too quickly and too easily has not the patience and persistence to go on improving, whereas the person who has to work harder to get the first start has acquired a power of perseverance which makes them keep improving. Such people often make more successful athletes in the long run than those to whom the accomplishment comes more readily.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right. Welcome to the Better Humanology Podcast. My name is Jared Moon. With me, as always, is Talon Schwam. What's up, Talon?
Hey, Jared.
And tonight we have, today we have, whenever you're listening to this, whatever day, it could be any time, it could be a commute to work. Whenever you're listening to this, we have
tomorrow.
We actually do have an interview this week, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But we can't get into the interview until we talk about, these little things at the beginning of the podcast that I really feel are making me better, making us better, making a lot of people better with these challenges and stuff. So let's recap last week, man. We have a lot of stuff going on. You want to start with secrets? Secrets are no fun.
Yeah, how did yours go?
I did mine relatively fast.
Yeah.
But it went good. I mean, we're not sharing our deepest, darkest secrets on the podcast.
No, that's not necessary, I don't think. Yeah. We have to burn the podcast down afterwards.
I expect someone to tweet me their deepest, darkest secret. Or it could be like an Instagram shot. No, I mean, it was good. Like I said, man, last week I was talking about how you and me kind of yin and yang sometimes, and we make we push each other in our own unique ways, and I think you do frequently make me uncomfortable with your challenges in your own unique way. So it's good, man. And I'm assuming you did your own challenge, correct?
I did. Yeah, it's I hadn't written about it in so long. So for me, and I really try and stay mindful as much as possible. But in doing my own challenge, it really helped me open, I feel like my eyes a little bit on how I've gotten through my deepest, darkest secret, probably more so than I even thought I had. I think we talked about repression a couple of weeks ago, or suppression, whatever. And I think I was getting to the point where it was almost getting repressed that I hadn't even thought about it in so long. So I think not necessarily bringing it up to think about is like, oh yeah, I'm there again. That's not at all that. It's just kind of realizing and becoming aware more so of where I'm at with this particular thing. So I think it was great for me.
In all honesty, I'll let the listeners in on a little secret. Talon shared with me his deepest, darkest secret because he's open like that, and I enjoyed it, man. Thank you for letting me know.
Good learning experience. There's a lot of bad things that happen in life. Typically are. All
right, so now let's talk about the brain. Let's talk about the brawn.
Okay.
Did you get some tack some miles to the end of your workouts this week?
Yeah, man. No, it was great. I love running, so anytime I can get another mile in, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, and to be honest, that challenge for me was absolutely awful. I got it done, but that one, so far that's probably the one that pushed me the most because I'd finish. You remember the challenge was at the end of a workout you add a mile, and if you don't hit your goal time, you run another mile. Right. And I think of all of them, I think it was four accomplished, mission accomplished, got under 6 minutes. and then 3, I had to run 2 miles. And so, and I also didn't throw any caveats like, hey, if you had a really hard workout, you don't have to do it. So I literally did Murph.
Oh, no.
And then I ran. I'll be 100% honest with everyone. I just did Murph and then ran 2 miles after it was over. That was,
wow.
I had no intention of trying to run another sub 6 minute mile. So I was just like, well,
You had no legs.
yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna go run 2 miles. And so I just ran 2 miles after Murph. And it was
The most pitiful run that Jared Boone ever did.
It was pretty pitiful. But, I did want to share like 2 things with everybody on just running in general and this mile thing, because I really enjoyed the mile challenge. I didn't enjoy it, but I did enjoy how much it was pushing me. I didn't expect it to push me as much as it did, because I would just like not want to do it at all at the end of some of my workouts. And when I get to a point like that, that's when like the wheels start turning. I'm like, you have to do this because you don't want to at all, because I know it's going to make me better.
Right.
But the timing was so hard, because I honestly think me running pretty much as fast as I can in a mile is going to be sub 6. And so if I get relaxed at all in that mile, it's going to be above 6. If I just let up for a second, my mind wanders, I'm not pushing it, it's going to be above 6. And so what I started to do to make sure I hit the time, and it started working like clockwork after that, was got out the old Map My Run app.
Yeah.
Because they do GPS on there.
Yep.
And I was like, they can do voice feedback. If you go into the settings, you can do voice feedback, and this woman comes on and tells you can set the distance.
Okay.
And she comes in and she can tell you in like 100 different things, like how fast you're running or your split speed and all this other stuff. And I wanted her to come on every 0.1 mile. At 0.1, every 0.1, which takes, if you run a 6 minute mile, it takes about 36 seconds. Every 36 seconds, she's talking to me. And all I wanted her to tell me was how fast, miles per hour, how many miles per hour am I running? Each 0.1 miles per hour, each 0.1 mile, because I knew to run a 6 minute mile, I had to be running 10 miles per hour consistently. And so
It was like a way to remind yourself, like, don't let your mind.
Yeah, because exactly how it would work out is I would go a little too fast out of the gate, and she'd come on 0.1 and be like 11.2 miles per hour, and I'd be like, whoa, you're going way too fast, slow down. And then I'd slow down, then 0.2, she'd be like 9.6 miles per hour. And I'm like, whoa, you need to speed up. And so it averaged out to be a little bit faster than 10, but just a little pro tip, if you will, for running those quick miles is it might be annoying, it might be frustrating to have this person in your ear talking to you every 35 seconds, but extremely helpful for me, because I knew how long I had to hold on, I knew exactly how fast I had to run, speed up, slow down. It was perfect.
You might be a better man or maybe a better human than me, because I couldn't take listening to that long. I'd be like, man, shut up, girl.
I mean, it's 6 minutes. It's only 6 minutes of your life,
Yeah. For me, I think I probably cheated a little too much on my runs. I'm just trying to get back in the swing of things. So I used to be a pretty competitive runner. So for me, my bar that I almost always set for a mile is pretty fast. And so I wasn't even coming close, like half a mile in. I'm like, you know what? I'm just running 2 miles. And I just started running 2 miles after each workout is a 2 mile run instead of 1 mile.
Just take it. Well, I mean, that's one way to do it. You're getting those extra miles. And a lot of people participated in this. When I threw down the gauntlet last week, kind of prodded everyone. I was like, I know you guys aren't going to take on this challenge. And
call them out.
Yeah, a lot of people did. So awesome. Good on everyone out there who did it. I did want to give another Murph update, because this past Murph, I actually had my worst time ever in the history ever.
Shouldn't you be getting better at Murph?
I know, right? Well, here's what I think happened, and I still can't even fully tell you the truth because I don't know what it is. I decided this week I was going to listen to an audiobook while I was doing Murph.
Oh.
And I still wanted to bring the intensity and listen to an audiobook. So I was doing that. And then I also decided to change things up. I was changing too many things. I was only going to do 3 sets of calisthenics. So breaking it up into these huge chunks,
Right. Yeah.
And just getting it, because sometimes like that, doing 20 rounds of calisthenics is so mindless that it's just hard to do. So I broke it up into these giant sets, and then I was on my second set of the third giant set. So essentially you're doing, because it's 600 total reps, if you break it into 3, you're doing 200, 200, and 200 total reps of everything. And it was 2 going into 3, but then I got completely like lost in my mind, and I wasn't like doing anything on my watch or anything to keep track of the reps. And then I was like, listening to the audiobook, got doing like 100 squats, and I just got completely lost, and I was like, wait a minute. Did you just finish 1 or did you just finish 2? I couldn't remember. Like I just completely blanked, and I was like, well, you can't just give yourself an extra 200 reps. So like I wouldn't allow myself to just be like, no, you're fine. Like you're probably fine. Like you're probably going into your third set, not going into your second set.
You wouldn't give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You assume the worst.
I assumed the worst and did more reps. And the only reason I do think that I'm right in having done an extra 200 reps is the fact that I'm literally like, I was 20 minutes slower than my fastest ever time.
Unless you sat there to calculate it.
My slowest
in the
time.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, that was jacked up. And then I ran 2 miles after. So that was fun.
Sounds like a fun day.
It was a fun Saturday. A lot of time, very time consuming. Not great.
We did a show like that kind of in season 1 about listening to audiobooks versus music and things of that nature while working out.
I mean, and there's some people who say they can do the audiobook and still be really intense. I can do an audiobook and mindless stuff. But if I need to be intense, I mean, there are studies that show too that music can help you be more intense.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that's definitely a trained thing, and I still don't have it. I've been trying. I cannot be like super intense and have like I don't think that I could run, like a super fast mile with listening to a boring audiobook or something.
Right. Because I think a part of your mind has to be engaged kind of to really be pushing your body that hard. To be doing intense workout. Like you can't have your brain somewhere else listening to an audiobook trying to really like comprehend what they're saying. Whereas music, you can just the beat can kind of overcome you and overwhelm you and push you to get to that, activated mindset already to push anyway.
That beat gets in you.
Yeah, right.
So Goodwill Hunting right there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the challenge this week, and then we can go on to the interview.
Okay.
Fitness challenge from me. This is so I've been doing I'm done now, but I was doing a lot of traveling recently, and it was kind of unplanned traveling. Just had some family stuff come up and whatnot, and when I get in those situations, I kind of, in all honesty, I kind of throw my program out the window, depending on how. In this particular situation, I wasn't going to inconvenience my family and be like, no, I have to find some sort of like CrossFit gym or whatever to go to every day. I was just like, yeah, you know what, I'm here, like I'll be here, but I still need to work out every day. And so I kind of throw my training plan out the window, but I make sure that I still train every single day. And especially if I'm not going to be touching a barbell, I mean literally every single day. And one thing I would do if it was just things got super busy or I felt like I couldn't fit it in, 100 burpees for time. So like you literally you can go outside, get in the grass, do whatever, do 100 burpees, set a timer, and you'll be done. You'll probably be done in less than 10 minutes in all honesty, and then just go on about your day. And
bringing me back memories now, but I think I was with you the first time you did your first 100 burpees in a row set.
Those are called bodybuilders, and we were doing them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ancient history
which are a little bit harder because you gotta get legs out, legs in. Like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, that's
the difference. Yeah,
it's a little bit different, but ultimately, I mean, that's fitness challenge, and I only want everyone to do it one time this week. So whenever you're like, I assume that most people who listen to this podcast have some sort of training schedule where they work out a certain amount, and so whatever day you're like is an off day or you don't feel like working out or whatever, that's the day that you're going to do 100 burpees this week. So for time, as fast as you can.
I can knock that one out easily. It won't take very much of my time.
Yeah, and it's a great workout. It really is. All right, mental toughness challenge. You're going to love it. I want everyone, it's this new thing. I thought of it, and it's like really crazy and like.
You got me hyped now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So workout this week. Do your workout. And then after you work out, I want you to add a mile to your workout. And then if you got to set a time for the mile, and if you don't achieve that time, then you got to run another mile. So that's my mental toughness challenge for this week.
I think you forgot something, Jared. I think you got something mixed up.
Nope. So you're right. This is the exact same challenge as last week for the fitness/mental toughness challenge.
Is this Groundhog Day? Hang on, let me look at my watch real quick.
I'm bringing it back for just the mental toughness challenge this week. Maybe primarily because personally, I hated all but like one of the miles. Just absolutely hated it. And so I have to do it again. I hated it too much. I have to do it again.
It made you that much better, so you have
I don't know if it made me maybe it will make me better. I could literally care less about the miles, whether or not I'm getting faster, but the mental struggle I had personally with trying to tack a mile onto my like workout was just like, I know that struggle is what makes you better. That's all I know. That's all I know for certain, is if you can fight yourself and get better, then and do something, you're going to get better. And so I have to do it again, and I'd like for the let's get some perseverance here, like the listeners to do it again.
Amen, man. Okay.
All right, man.
Challenge accepted. My challenge this week, now it seems like we're just going to pile on the physical, tough fitness, just pile it all on them this week, because mine has a little bit kind of to do. Mine's a little bit more mental toughness as well, but this is something that we did a lot actually when we were in college. But my challenge this week is wall sits. So it's not an everyday thing that I'm asking y'all to do. It's more about maybe do it once for time, like how long you can do it. See how long you can just last there on the wall. The thing about what wall sits will do is it's going to play tricks with your mind a little bit. You'll start sitting there and you'll think, if you've done wall sits before, then you already know. If you haven't, you'll start sitting there and you'll be like, okay, this is easy. I can probably do this all day. But very quickly, you'll start feeling that burn, and then it becomes all a mental game from there on. You really want to push through that. And something for me, the reason I really like wall sits is it kind of falls in line with why I love running, long distance running. Is it gives you an opportunity to really kind of get lost in your thoughts and be mindful and kind of be more aware of things and process things. And so the thing about wall sits is it's not so mindless like running is, because that pain is going to be quite a bit more intense than a long jog.
It's you versus you.
Yeah. So overcoming that and still trying to use your time wisely, and that kind of self-talk that you have, and work on that a little bit, and just try and get to the point where you forget how long it's been, that you forget the pain, and then maybe you can stop.
Maybe.
That's
awesome, man. So yeah, we got 100 burpees. I'm telling people to do the miles again, and you got wall sits. This is going to be a grueling week. Hey, I'm all about it though. Let's do it. Book recommendation this week. So, man, I finished that. It's almost like I put it on a pedestal. I shouldn't have talked about it so much in previous episodes. That 24-hour plus ebook. It was actually it was 24 hours and 45 minutes. I'm going to officially recommend it if you've got the time. And I'm not saying like I definitely like just have like all this free time to listen to the book, but I do also think I'm almost like the book guinea pig. I think for the show is like I could recommend things. The only reason I wouldn't not recommend this book is because it is good. So without any further ado, it's Benjamin Franklin, An American Life. So it's a biography about Benjamin Franklin, and the book is absolutely long as crap. It's 24 hours and 45 minutes, but it is a very good book because, you know, part of becoming better, in my opinion, is not just, you know, reading these books that can make you better as far as like trying to give you new tips and tricks and strategies. It's studying the people who kind of were better humans that they showed through their life and through their actions over time. And Benjamin Franklin is a really interesting dude. I think that what made me want to read this book was I read before reading this book. Now I know like every single thing about Benjamin Franklin. It's almost like it's too much.
You guys are homies.
Yeah, but I read an article online that said Benjamin Franklin had set a goal in his early 20s that he wanted to be a morally perfect human being. That was like a legit goal. He just wanted, and so he also created this book. It's like a tracking book, and you know I'm all about that too. And
yeah,
like
we know.
He made this like he would track his daily virtues. I think it was 13 total virtues that he thought a human being should have, and he tracked his own every single day. And until he like reached that perfection by his own, by his own judgment, he was just going to keep going. And when I read that, I was like, dude, this guy was freaking crazy. Like, yeah. He did like later on in his life say like that was a ridiculous goal, but it was like, it was really good for him to have because it led him a lot of good directions. So, I mean, on top of that, like scientist, philosopher, writer, entrepreneur, like the dude did basically everything. He lived twice as long as the normal life expectancy back then. I'm not sure that's something you normally do on purpose, but I just think that he had such a good outlook on life and pretty positive person that it helped. So yeah, read that if you're looking for a really interesting person in history who's done a lot of good things. Go for it. And you know, the last thing I liked about Benjamin Franklin, probably the best, and they reiterated this fact over and over and over and over in this book, is that he was like the king of practicality. Like everything he did, touched, or talked about was like, what's the practical application? They were talking about like because he didn't used to, but in more recent history, they say like he actually has a place in like a pretty respected place in the scientific world now. He didn't used to have that because he actually did discover like a lot of cool stuff. But they said that he's on the verge of a lot of major discoveries, but he didn't see the practicality in it. Uh-huh. And then someone else would go on to discover it later, but he was just like, yeah, but that's like just a discovery. How is this going to help me or help someone else? Like it won't, so I'm not going to pursue this any further. And I was just like, dude, Benjamin Franklin is my guy. You know, like it was a really good book. The only reason if I sound negative at all is because it was 24 freaking hours.
Right.
And I feel like I could have got
your Murph.
I feel like and it ruined my Murph. I feel like I could have got some of the highlights in maybe a shorter condensed version, but it was really good. I learned a lot, and I think Benjamin Franklin was definitely on that better human quest like we all are here. So definitely check it out. And if you want to download that one for free, because it would be super expensive if you don't, because of the length of the audiobook, you can at audibletrial.com/betterhuman. Go ahead and download that book. I don't know how many of you will, but I'm officially recommending it just because of how awesome Benjamin Franklin was.
It's got to be easier to listen to 24 hours than to read what probably that converts to in pages of like, 976? I have no idea.
I would like to see that book. So what I normally do, and this, you made a joke about it in one of the podcasts, is like reading, if you read the book and listen to it, like double your book budget or whatever.
Right.
But if I listen to a book and it was awesome, then I'll go on Amazon and buy the book. Because if I need it, if I feel like I'm going to need it for like a reference, I'm like, right. Yeah, I definitely want to go. Because you can't reference an audiobook. That's the only thing I hate.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, go back to, I mean, you kind of can. Audible has like a cool like clip button you can hit, so you can always go back to that. But anyway, I won't be buying this one because it would be so massive that I would like, it's got to be huge, man, like a textbook.
Lean your bookshelf like a few inches over just by putting it on there.
For sure. All right, man. Interview today. So we have Michael McGoldrick. I'm sure that most people, if you listen to podcasts, especially in the fitness and nutrition space. I'm sure that you've heard of Barbell Shrugged. So they did get a new crew a few months ago. They kind of did like a change out of all their personalities, and they have a great group of guys doing the show now. And one person that originally, this is kind of a funny story because I know Mike Bledsoe now. He was like he's the CEO of Barbell Shrugged now, but the only reason Mike Bledsoe and I ever like met up or like talked or anything like that was because they did a podcast with Michael McGoldrick about his garage gym a long time ago. And Michael McGoldrick on the show was trying to reference some sort of website that had a lot of DIY garage gym tutorials, but he could not think of it off the top of his head. And then one of the EO3 readers tweeted them and was like, dude, that was totally N3 Fitness. You guys should connect. So I connected with Michael Bledsoe, and then the rest is history. Anyway, the reason I bring all that up is because Mike McGoldrick was officially the first guy who mentioned my site on the Barbell Shrugged podcast, and he has always been a big fan, which I thought was cool. But he is a super impressive guy running that show now as the host, and then also, he's been to the CrossFit Games. Super interesting guy, and he's got a lot of great stuff to share with us. So I won't push it any further. Here is today's interview with Mike McGoldrick. All right, Mike, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Better Humanology podcast. I think that we've been floating around in the same circles for a long time, and you're someone I've always been super impressed with. Just some of your training alone impresses the hell out of me, so I'm super glad to have you on today. But before we get started, do you think you could tell my listeners who you are and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mike McGoldrick. I'm the coach and host of the Barbell Shrugged podcast. That's pretty much the full-time gig right now. Write programs for Barbell Shrugged. We make content. We try and have really cool people on to interview. And then when we don't have people to interview, we try and interview ourselves to really just share as much training experience and knowledge that we have with our listeners. I coach people remotely on the side. Been doing CrossFit for about 8 or 9 years. I can't remember exactly. What else do you want to know?
Actually, something I do want to know, just because I know that the numbers are impressive. Can you give me a few benchmark lifts?
Well, just recently, I've been weightlifting quite a bit more. So actually last week, I was in Cookeville. We did some filming with the Mayhem crew, and I PR'd every single one of my Olympic lifts. I PR'd my front squat at 430, PR'd my snatch at 305, and I PR'd my clean and jerk at 380.
Wow.
So something's in the water in Cookeville.
I know, man. It's whatever Rich Froning has going on there. That's impressive, man. So what were your previous PRs before hitting those?
Well, to be honest, as long as I've been doing this, any PR that I get nowadays, I'm extremely grateful for, because I try to remember that I may not get that number again, So prior to that, that was a 10-pound snatch PR.
Wow.
That was a 15-pound clean and jerk PR. So I haven't tested it a lot lately in the past couple of years. So I think it was just kind of due time. I've put a lot of the work in and haven't really tested. And, when you're training with the champ, it's a good environment. So magic happens.
I can only imagine, man. So let's talk about some of the training that you've been doing that's gotten you there. What have you been doing? I say recently, but maybe you've been doing something for the last 6 months or more. What have you been doing training-wise?
Well, for years, I trained CrossFit for about 5 or 6 years, or 7 years maybe. And then I still do a little bit, but for right now, the focus is on Olympic weightlifting. I've never done a meet, so I sat down with my coach and said, hey, I want to really try and specialize for a little bit. I want to see exactly how strong I can get if I follow a 10 to 12 week weightlifting cycle, and I want to do a meet. I've never trained specifically for a meet. I don't know much about choosing openers, about cutting weight. So really, this is more of a self experiment for me, so I can learn to see how much I might like the sport, as well as coaching my own clients because a lot of them want to do weightlifting meets. And I think the best way to get some experience in that is just dive in and do it. So that's the journey right now. The past couple years, I've been training for grid. I did 2 grid seasons in the MPGL, and then that was kind of a mix of CrossFit. But for now, I took some time off of that stuff, and I'm literally doing just weightlifting.
How's that transition been, going from trying to be pretty much, the most well-rounded athlete on the planet to, specializing? What's that like?
It's been kind of tough. It's fun because, I've always liked to lift, and I've always liked heavy weightlifting and heavy metcons, that kind of stuff. So that part of it's fun. But it's hard because I love CrossFit and I love trying to be, the fittest version of myself, and being well-rounded. So giving that up for a little bit was really hard, but I've just got to keep reminding myself, like, this is just for a short period of time. Like, I can always go back to that. It doesn't mean I'm not doing other stuff. Like, this weekend my knees didn't feel that great. So I took the day off of the weightlifting and I just did, a long workout with my wife, and I still get to move and things like that. So it's not like completely gone, but yeah, the focus definitely changed. So that was an adjustment.
Yeah. So most of your training, is that happening in the garage?
I would say 50% of my training is in my home garage. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me more about your garage gym setup. We have a lot of garage gym athletes who listen to this podcast. So I'd love to hear, first, what you got, the basics in your garage gym. I've seen it on video. It looks pretty awesome. And then after the basics, if you could hit me up with kind of why you started a garage gym. Yeah,
sure. So first, I have to say that a lot of the things that I built in the garage came from your website. When you reached out to do the show, I was really pumped. I was like, man, no way. I used to look at your website all the time and get garage gym ideas. So thanks for putting out the cool garage gym stuff on there.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess starting off, buying this house, when we were house shopping, my wife and I both knew like having something or some kind of space to build a garage gym was like super important. So we shopped around for a while and we told our realtor, we're like, we've got to have a 4-car garage or a 3-car garage. And she was like, no, you're crazy, especially with the price range that you guys have. That's just not going to happen. She calls me back like a day later and she's like, I stand corrected. You might want to take a look at this house. So the house that we live in has an extra 2-car garage on top of a regular 2-car garage, which was actually built after the fact that the house was built. The lady that lived here, I guess, had some extra cars and wanted to store them or something. So we actually have a separate 2-car garage connected to the house. So when we came in to look at the house for the first time, we were like, oh, we'll buy it right now. We want it right now. I think it's perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we have a little bit more space than, we'd ever imagined. It's like 25 by 25 feet. I'm going to think the first piece of equipment that we put in there was the Rogue yoke that acts as like a squat rack. And I think it's like the 8-foot one.
Yeah.
Mainly because we're like, all right, we got a squat rack, we got a heavy yoke we can carry, we've got racks to put our plates on. It was just, it's one of those that saves a lot of space and you can put a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah, dude, the yoke is probably the most versatile piece of equipment you can start with in the garage gym. And it's relatively affordable considering how much it does,
it's a sled, it's a yoke, it's a squat rack. Like, you can do a lot with it.
And so
that was one of the first for sure.
So you're training in your garage. You have a pretty badass setup. So what does that look like as far as, I know that you are a coach and you create programs, but you mentioned your coach earlier. Do you write your own programming? Do you have someone write it for you? What are you doing there?
Right. So I have a coach. His name is Max El Haj. He owns Training Think Tank. We've been friends for a long time, and we've just kind of worked together over the years, and I've picked up with him for about a year now. I say I'd had an individual coach for the past 3 years. I've gone through a couple of different people. Nothing bad ever happened to anyone. It was just, you learn what you do from someone, and when that relationship is kind of at its end, you just move on to a different goal. And the guy I'm working with right now, Max, he's fantastic. He actually coaches my wife too, so we all have a really good training relationship. Everyone, has a lot of fun with it. He writes us workouts together sometimes so we can do some of the same stuff. It's really cool.
And does he train or coach Travis Mayer?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen some stuff about that. Yeah, that's where I've heard the name before. Seems like he knows what he's doing then.
Max is a smart dude. I look up to him as a mentor as well. Someone that I really trust, that he understands more than writing the workouts. He understands how long I've been doing this. He understands how my body operates versus, Rich Froning, how my tissue tolerance is different, the volume I handle is different, my stress, like everything's just a little different. And he really goes the extra mile to look into that stuff and to keep that in mind.
All right, so he wasn't your coach when you got to the games, though.
Correct. James Fitzgerald was my coach back then. That was back when I spent all the time with the OPEX family, formerly OPT. So the trip to the games, it started with, back in like 2009 or 2010, I started following the OPT blog, which was the Big Dog blog back in the day. I'm not sure if you remember it, but
yeah.
yeah, it was awesome. We had a cool online community. There weren't many others out there like it. And it was
awesome.
Yeah, it was great programming. It was the first like CrossFit training program that you would see out there. Really, it wasn't just like Metcons every day. It was like doing training programs, building you toward a peak, and it started like leading you into regionals to be peaked and prepped. It was pretty cool. Got real involved with the OPT family through that. Went out to a couple of their like competitions that they had, and I think after 1 year, I decided I did individual 1 year on my own. I pretty much wrote my programming myself. Contacted with James Fitzgerald back and forth a little bit. He kind of looked over it some and was like, he would be like, hey, change this, do that. But for the most part, I wrote it, for myself. And I did pretty well at regionals that year. That was 2011. I think I ended up like 7th place. And then I thought, man, I think I can see myself doing a little bit better. And this is actually, improvement over the last 2 years prior to that competing, where first year I ever competed, I was like 30th, didn't even make the cut for day 2. The next year I was like 15th, and then this next year I was 7th. So I could just see that there was progress being made, but it started getting to the point where I didn't really know what else I could do for myself. And I was kind of tired of guessing. I wanted to put it in someone's hands that could tell me like, this is everything you need to do. And that's when hiring a coach became the idea. So I reached out to James just because I knew that he knew me from the blog, and I really didn't know anyone else to really even reach out to, but we had a pretty good relationship. So he coached me for a couple of years and helped coach me to the games in 2013. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, and I think once you get to that level, there's only one of two things that you can do, and that is either do it all yourself and find out the hard way that it either works or it doesn't, or leverage the experience of someone who's done it for a lot of other people, and utilize their experience to leverage yourself to a better spot as an athlete. So tell me about the games, man. Have you been once or more than that?
I went once. So 2011, I was pretty close. I was in the Central East region at that time. I was actually in second place all weekend behind Dan Bailey, and I had one bad event, and it pretty much took me out. But other than that, I was very close all weekend. The next year, I actually went team. I did that mainly because I went to Africa during half of the Open. So I did 2 workouts in the Open in 2012 and then went to Africa for 3 weeks. So I wasn't really able to finish. However, back then, all you needed to do was just like do a rep and you could be on a team. So I did that, and we had a pretty good year. And then after that year, I was fully committed to trying to go back individually and make it to the game. So like I said, in 13, I hired a coach, and 13, I had a really good year. Ended up winning the South Central region. Kind of everything just lined up very well for me that year. Had fun at the games, great experience. 2014, kind of battled some injuries. The 2013 year, kind of reaching my peak at that journey and trying to be, very healthy for the games, kind of just took its toll on me. So 2014 wasn't the best training year. And leading into regionals, I didn't have the best weekend. I ended up I think 7th place overall. I was only a couple points out, but it was very close. But it's always going to be very close when you're up that high. And then I took last year off, and this year is the first year back that I just kind of played around in the Open.
And so if you had to pick one favorite memory from the CrossFit Games as a competitor, what would it be?
Man, I mean, as a competitor, I almost hate admitting that anyone's just good. You know, you want to be there and I want to rip everyone's face off. But so I try not to be in awe of other competitors around me.
Right.
However, I couldn't help it when we were doing the half marathon row, where this event was gnarly. It was after the swim events. It was day one of the games. First event of the day was the swim competition, and then we got on a bus and they took us to this big indoor arena where we had to do our half marathon row. And then the catch for the half marathon row, if you remember, was the first 2,000 meters was one score.
Right.
So you had to basically bust ass on the first 2K and then hang on for the rest.
I loved that programming
Oh
technique.
man,
That was awesome.
Man, it was just a mind game. You know, like they just couldn't make it easy.
Right.
But going into that event, I felt pretty good about it because I'd done the hour row before several times. Coming from an OPT background, you know, they do a lot of long cyclical tests like that for work capacity just to see, like, you know, what your aerobic capacity is for something like that. So rowing for an hour, I was like, oh, it's no big deal. I can do this. But Jason Calippo and Rich Froning were actually seated in front of me. And I remember Jason winning the 2K and then also winning the whole the half marathon row. And if anyone ever remembers watching the video of that event, obviously it's not exciting. We're sitting there on a rower for an hour and a half.
Right.
Watching Jason get up after his half marathon row and walk around like it didn't even happen was just completely mind blowing to me. He was at such a different level than anyone else, like at the CrossFit Games that second. All the other events, he won a couple, he did well in, but this one he blew everyone out of the water. He was done like 3 minutes early. It was crazy.
Yeah, dude, I remember watching that, and I can't remember what his pace, you know, his 500-meter pace was, but that's like something that's like hard for me to hold on like a 2,000-meter row. You know, he was killing it.
Yeah, I want to say his 2K was like in the 30s, in the 6:30s, maybe in the high 20s, but then his pace for the half was like in the 150s, which was just insane. I mean, people were losing their mind during this.
Yeah, that's just
and he just walked through it like it was nothing. It was pretty awesome.
It's just the monotony gets to you, you know. Like I recently committed myself to doing Murph every Saturday for a year, and
oh god,
you know, it was an idea at first, and now I'm finding that there's a whole new challenge, and it's not necessarily the workout, it's the monotony of just like starting the same workout again and knowing what I'm going to have to go through, you know, to get to the end. So yeah, the monotony is a whole different mental game that you have to get through. That's crazy. All right,
are you adapting to it? Are you noticing that you're adapting to the volume well?
Yeah, I am. I'm not. My body's adapting pretty well. I haven't like the first couple of times after Murph, like I'd wake up pretty sore, you know, beat up, and now, like I did Murph on Saturday, I woke up feeling good on Sunday, and then I trained on Sunday the day after, and I was good to go. So I have adapted pretty well, and still getting better at it too, but I don't know where. I think that I'm about at my peak. I'm getting as good as I can at Murph without like specifically training additionally for it.
Wow, that's crazy. That's insane.
It's something, man. It's a bad idea. That's what it is. All right. So the games, and so you're training leading up to the games. How is that different than, and I like to ask I've had another games athlete on here, so let me make sure I word it correctly. Games training, let's say 3 months out versus like a year out from the games. Just to kind of give people perspective of how much planning actually goes into CrossFit Games training. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So like what does it look like leading up to versus like say a year out?
Okay, so mine was a little different, and you know, I think someone like Rich Froning or you know some of those athletes that we know is like almost going to go every year. I think their year-long plan's a little different, but if you're someone who has no, which is almost everyone now, if you have no idea that you're going to make it to the games, you don't really consider training for the games. You really consider training for the open and regionals, and everything's kind of built around that. So that's what my training looked like. Leading up in the off season, it was a lot of reps, a lot of volume, a lot of lower intensity, but just long volume, mainly because I'm a bigger guy, I'm a stronger guy, and I'm faster. So I needed to get used to doing long Metcons with a lot of reps. And if you look at the workouts now in the open and the regionals, it's just a lot of reps. And if you're a big guy with a lot of muscle, you need to be able to handle that and recover from that. So that's really what the off season looked like for me, was preparing for that volume. Preparing to go into day 3 and on the regionals weekend and not be completely destroyed from the volume already, to where you're just healed up and you're ready to go and be fresh, because that's kind of the separator. Those who recover after 2 days and can do well on the 3rd day. And then go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, man, if the CrossFit Games or regionals was only one workout, then a lot of us would be competitive. I think it's that culmination of days that really takes its toll.
Yeah, so just a year basically of building volume and capacity. So you just build up that big base, and then as you get closer, you really I really tried to sharpen and refine things, and then add some intensity to it so you know how to go fast. But between regionals and the games, my experience was actually kind of tough, because the final, or the second to last event of the regionals weekend that I qualified, I actually tore my groin, and it was a really bad tear. It wasn't bad enough that I couldn't finish the final event, which wouldn't even have qualified then. But after that, I basically couldn't squat or do anything with my legs for about 5 weeks after regionals.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so that was pretty frustrating. It was really hard to handle, because here I am, qualifying for one of the biggest goals in my life, and now I can't train for it, and I've only got 7 weeks left. So that was really tough, but it is what it was what it was. I just had to basically deal with what I could do and make the best of it. Luckily, I just didn't try and push it, and things healed up, and I went to the games healthy. Maybe not in the best shape I could have been in, but I wasn't hurt, which I would much rather have. I'd rather be a little out of shape and healthy than kind of beat up and in better shape, because it gets in your head.
Yeah, man, and I think that kind of gives me a perfect segue to my next question that I like to ask people who are really experienced in the ways of coaching, programming, and everything. But first, how long have you been training? At what age did you start?
I wouldn't like this kind of training is different from when it started, but I mean, early high school, I'd started lifting weights, and I just basically wanted to have muscles. I wanted to impress girls, and I was going to World's Gym and was doing bodybuilding exercises, reading about how to get stronger and put on muscle, and doing pretty generic bodybuilding routines. And then I also played sports. I played hockey for 12 years, so anything I could do to stay in shape for that, I was always doing. Dry season, off-season training, just to supplement, better performance in my sport. Then after quitting hockey in college, I actually took maybe half a year off where I really didn't do much and felt lost and didn't have any, lost that competitive drive, and started to gain some weight. So I got back in the gym, and then that just kind of where it led me into CrossFit, because I'm a competitive person, and I'll be competitive the rest of my life. So, that's basically the timeline. But, training, I would say since I was 13 or 14.
Okay. And the reason I ask is because, that's a lot of experience. You've done I think a lot of us start just trying to get bigger biceps. At some point, that's where I started in high school, just trying to get bigger.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, but you still get a lot of experience in that time frame. So if you had to start over, you take yourself right now, and you're allowed to go back and coach the teenage version of yourself who just started the first day of the gym. What would you tell him to do? What would you tell yourself to do?
That's a good question. I would probably tell myself to do more sport. Well, it depends where I wanted to be. I mean, I thought what I was doing for hockey was good enough, but honestly, I wish I had found CrossFit when I was younger, mainly because it was such a variety of so many different things. And I always worked hard and, trained hard and did things to the best of my ability, but I just didn't know any better back then. I didn't know better training programs. I didn't know about eating right, sleeping right, recovering right. I just kind of worked out a little bit and then just let the chips, fall where they may. So I would have to tell myself, go find a gym with really competitive people and just be around more competitive people. Especially starting at a younger age, because back then I was kind of on my own, and I didn't really have anyone else around that was a positive influence that was training really that hard.
I like that, man. And so let's fast forward a few years to now your games training, when you really decided you started CrossFit, you got serious about that. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell that version of yourself?
Honestly, I would tell myself, I don't think I didn't do this, but I would tell myself, look, how long do you want to do this? Because you might want to slow down some. This is a really demanding sport. It takes a lot out of you. You basically compete 3 times in a year if you make it to the games level to get there. So it's just a lot, and there's not much of an off season. So I would just say, be okay with competing 1 year and then taking the next year off. Do you want to do this for 10 years? If so, slow down and just think longer term. Everyone wants to get there now and do it right away because this is the biggest year. Every new year is the biggest year that you want to get there. So they do everything they can. They skip everything when it comes to good training and volume and movement quality just to get there. I would tell myself, like, don't be afraid to fail a couple of years. Don't be afraid to get 10th place. Don't be afraid to lose, and just keep your eyes set on the longer term picture.
All right, man, I really appreciate that. And I think that just being able to reflect back like that helps, a lot of people out there realize maybe if they're making some mistake right now, take the wisdom from someone like you who has a ton of experience in training and coaching and maybe adjust their own path. I do want to shift gears here a little bit, and this is new. You're actually the first guest. I'm thinking about adding this as a regular question on the show just because I'm super interested personally. Book recommendations. Do you have a book out there? It could be related to training. It could be related to life. I really don't care. Do you have a book recommendation for me and the listeners?
Man, it's funny. I don't know why this one's coming to mind, but I would say it's a training book, and this helped me learn how to swim. And it was so impactful to me because I didn't really have a swimming coach, and I needed to learn how to swim because I had a competition coming up that required swimming. So I reached out and I read around and I found this book called Total Immersion. And they actually have courses that they do, but reading this book basically taught me how to be more comfortable in the water. So I know it's completely random, and I don't know why this one came to mind, but it by far was the most impactful in my training because the wording and the examples that they use, it helped me change my brain and change the way I look at how my body is in the water. And it basically made me a better swimmer and made me survive in the water and be able to compete. So I would check that out if you're looking for a technical book. When it comes to lifestyle development, I would say, one I'm reading right now, the first thing that comes to mind is it's called The Man's Guide to Women. And don't get caught up in the title. It's not like a book on like how to pick up chicks. It's a book on how to basically be, a better husband or a better boyfriend, basically to understand women better and be more empathetic. It's really powerful, some of the messages in it, and it just really helps you understand how different we are and how to work better with one another.
I really like that, man. I'm definitely going to check both books out, and I'm going to link to them in the show notes for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, it's a short read, but it's just full of really helpful information.
All right, man. With that, we're going to go ahead and move to the quick fire questions of the show. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, man. What's the hardest workout you've ever done?
Can I name 2?
Of course.
Okay. The first one, because I think there's 2 kinds of hard. One is hard after the workout, and one's hard during. And when I think of something that hurts like after, like when you're done with it really bad, I think back to about a year ago. I actually just saw this on my time hop. It was row 500 meters at all-out effort, rest 2 minutes, 3 sets. So each one you did at full 100% effort, regardless of how smoked you were. And if you're a powerful guy, you would probably look at this and just cringe because the more powerful you are, I really believe you can just dig deeper and hurt. This one messed me up so bad that it just burned in my memory. It was I PR'd my 500-meter row on the first one, and then the second one, I could barely finish the row. I was so messed up, but the goal was just to dig and see how far I would fall off on each one. That one by far just freaks me out because it just hurts so bad afterward.
Yeah, man, that'd be brutal.
Yeah. The second one, I'll never forget this one too because it made my training partner at the time quit training with us for good.
Nice.
He gave up after that. I don't know if that's positive or not. But, it was 60-second max calories on the Airdyne, and then you rest 1 minute exactly, and then you go into 21-15-9 thrusters and total bar. And I think the thruster weight was like 115, but that one was so bad too, just because you obviously kill yourself for a minute in the beginning, and then you have to do this Metcon afterward. And I remember I and my buddy, it was in the summertime, we both literally laid down in the middle of the workout, like I took a break. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Dude, that's awful. It's almost like anything that involves a rower or an Airdyne can just like really, really destroy people.
Yeah, anytime you can just empty it, just hurts.
And then throw thrusters in there just for good measure.
And I mean, that one I named because I was like, this isn't going to end unless I get up and finish it. So it was like, it wasn't like a time cap. There wasn't an AMRAP. It was like, I have to finish this. And it was just brutal.
All right, man. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
That's a good question. Man, the best activity for building mental toughness. I think accepting the fact that you're not just going to figure it out. Like, people come to me and they ask, I need to know how to get mentally stronger in workouts, and I want to stop being weak in workouts. You don't ever stop being weak. You just get better at it. So to me, honestly, the best advice I could give on that is to test yourself more often. If you only go into the pain cave like once a month, that's only one chance a month you get to actually see how you hold up when adversity comes and, the pain kicks in. So I think people need to experience it more so they can test themselves more and know how they actually react to that pain when it shows up. I can't really think of a specific exercise other than just putting yourself in the moment more and being challenged more often.
No, and I love that, man. I call that meeting yourself, more regularly.
Yeah.
And it takes some people a lot long, like it probably takes you a lot longer than it does me to meet myself because, just your fitness level is already there. But, anyone, it doesn't matter how you get there, just, break down all the walls and barriers and meet yourself. So I love that answer, man. That's awesome.
Thanks. I mean, you got guys like Rich Froning and Josh Bridges who appear to be the most mentally tough people on the planet. And they're very resilient. They're very strong mentally, but I guarantee you they're not in pain. It doesn't go away. They're just really good at handling it.
I would love to be in their brain, like just during one workout, just like experience, or what the self-talk is there. Maybe there's no self-talk.
Yeah. I have different opinions on that. A lot of people think that they're, and this is again, just my opinion, and some people could disagree with it, but everyone, assumes that because they do so much better that they're that much mentally stronger. Sure, I think they're mentally strong, but also what they're doing is just not as hard to them as it is to other people. Like, their fitness level is just that much higher that it just looks easier.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, if you and I were to like go out in my backyard and try to, build our mental toughness, and we did the same workout, it might mean you doing the workout in 12 minutes to really get there, and me doing it in 18 minutes to really get there, So I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, dude, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, man, this is probably so generic, but I would say a barbell, mainly because obviously you can do a lot of stuff with it, but you can train multiple sports with a barbell. You can do powerlifting. You can do Olympic weightlifting. You can bodybuild. There is so many things you can do with just a simple barbell and be competitive that I would definitely have to say that.
All right, man. I love that. That's probably my favorite piece of equipment. All right, dude, the most important question of the show, your best advice for becoming a better human, and this is 100% open-ended.
Whew. Well, I'm not sure I've quite figured out what it is to be a better human or if I'm even a good human. So,
I mean, none of us have,
take this with a grain of salt. My best piece of advice, kind of my motto, is kill complacency. I'm just a very progressive person. I'm not very traditional. Everyone's different. That could be a positive or negative thing, but one thing I've noticed is that the second that you kind of settle or become okay with how things are, I feel like life kind of loses its spark and its color. I think that we need to give up comfort and just accept that things are not going to be comfortable for the rest of our lives, that we're going to constantly be faced with new challenges and battles, and you never really have control. So the more you can understand that just dealing with these things as they come and handling yourself better, I think that life is a lot easier to handle.
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Pretty much, you hear that saying a lot. There's so much more that goes into that. And that's why I love physical, training and fitness as my way of expressing how to help people, is that it's a great way to, there's just no lying about it. Like you have to face your reality, and CrossFit's great about that because it gives you a reality check on where you actually are, and you have to face that reality. And those that can't face it don't last. They go away. So I think just being honest and finding out like where you are specifically, let's just use competing in CrossFit, for example, like doing the open, like I don't want people to not do the open because they can't really face the reality of where they stack up. I think it's good to face it, and it helps you grow and, just learn from yourself. Oh man, you're right. This is open-ended. I could go on for another hour.
Hey man, that's fine. That's what the show is all about, becoming a better human, however possible.
Being open-minded, like the second, I always tell people too, when they're looking for coaches, the second you find a coach who claims that he has it all figured out and knows everything, you need to run. I think just that constant hunger to want to continue to learn and to listen and to be open-minded. In Barbell Shrug, we have a motto that, you need to be a listener instead of a doer, or excuse me, a teller. Are you telling people or are you listening to people? It'll change your mindset on being more empathetic and, just being better with people overall.
I like that, man. I really appreciate that answer. I do want to be mindful of your time though. So in closing it out, what's the best place for people to learn more about you and what you're doing?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can follow my training there and a lot of the stuff we're doing with Barbell Shrug, all the programs and coaching. My Instagram handle is @McGShrugged. I've got a website, mobilitykits.com. It's a product that I sell. It's a pretty cool, convenient package. It's a foam roller with a bunch of items inside. Check out that website. I've got a lot of cool content on there as well, a bunch of mobility exercises. And really, I'm just constantly updating with new ways to help improve your movement. So I'm a firm believer that we're not going to last in this sport unless you improve your movement quality. So I think that's one of the number one things to fix. And I'm pretty passionate about that. And then come hang out and chat with us in Overtime on Barbell Shrugged. It's our new online membership that we have, and we post a bunch of cool content there. We have a big forum where we have open discussions about anything and everything fitness related.
That's awesome, man. And I'll post links to all of this in the show notes. Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today.
Absolutely, Jared. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.